Those stripped of the grace of gold shall all meet death. In the embrace of Mesmer's flame.
The Euporia is one of the coolest weapons in Shadow of the Erdtree. Like a few others, it's interesting enough that in some ways it feels more like a Bloodborne weapon than just another Elden Ring twin blade. Successive attacks within a 10-second window will buff its luster, and in the second stage of the buff, its weapon art absolutely deletes things. There's good news and bad news about the Euporia on the most recent patch of Elden Ring. The good news, which you've probably heard, is that it's been buffed and is much better now. The bad news is that despite it being located in Ballarat, there still isn't really a viable method for getting it early. So yeah, we're killing Mesmer as the first boss of the DLC. And don't worry, it's going to be fine. Grab yourself a character around level 110, and these stats. I used my character from the Confessor starting class video, as it had exactly the stats that I needed. To kill Mesmer first, in a way that's reproducible for people who aren't nerds, I needed a very good weapon. So why not use the best one in the base game? So I went to Lanedale Ashen Capital to grab the Starfist. Level it up and equip it with Flame Art Cragblade. Now to the Land of Shadow. To get set up, I followed the first part of my setup guide, speaking to Arnsbark on the way. But as we're going to be doing the Shadowkeep first anyway, feel free to follow the full setup guide for more levels before Mesmer. This would have been the smart thing to do for this run, but when the DLC came out, I wondered how long it would take me to come up with a route that entails fighting Mesmer first. And it turns out the answer to that is 3 videos. I'm so sorry. So we're heading into the back of the Shadowkeep to avoid the hippo fight. Run past the Fire Knights, open up the secret area nearby, and grab the shaggy fragment on the statue. Then up the elevator, light the back grace, then jump down to the first floor. Head up to the 4th floor grace, then past the Fire Knight and drop down into this room for the scroll for Arnsbark. Then drop down to the 1st floor to speak to him and hand it over. For this fight we're going to need the Blade of Mercy, so head back to the Scorched Ruins at the start to grab it if you haven't already. So killing Mesmer first sounds like a nightmare, but in reality you only need to dodge a couple of his moves with the Starfist. Do 2 charges on the opener, then a third will stagger. When he staggers you have 2 options. You can squeeze in another charge followed by the nifty little crouch to riposte earlier, or just do a tap R2 and a riposte, whichever one you're more comfortable with. 2 more charges and phase 1 is over. For phase 2, 2 more charges after the opener, then repeat the same riposte string. 1 to 3 more hits, dependent on your riposte strategy, is all you need. Now to the ancient ruins of Rao. As always, do the little jump down to Bully Hippo for another fragment, then you can follow my setup video if you haven't already for the other 3 fragments in this area. For Romina, 2 charged R2s will break her stance. Stamina can be a bit more of an issue for her, but this fight isn't going to bother you much with this ridiculous weapon. Burn the ceiling tree and head through Ainrun to the Staircase of Doom. I think the most consistent way of doing this is always going to be to kill the spiral spammer before trying to do this jump down. So run up and backstab him. Then jump down onto this staircase. From here we're going to parkour around the buildings and head down. I'm not going to spoil all of this route as it's pretty fun. About halfway through you'll find the Scorpion fragment. The reason that I call it that is every time I grab it I forget about this fucking scorpion. Eventually you'll find yourself in the upper secret area of Ballarat and to the room containing our weapon for the run. After upgrading it to max, I headed to the gravesite plane and the round table for some fashion choices. Now back to the base game, to the Third Church of Marika. Up the Spirit Springs, to the church to kill Anastasia for the Holy Scorpion charm. Now for something that's been missing from my DLC guides. Head to Radahn's area to speak to our main man. Speak to him again in the lava in Mount Gelmir. Then up to the top of Faram Azula. Do a little sparring with him, then take the shard he hands you while he tells you, "You know what, sod this, I'm not doing this anymore. Alex, DLC's out, you coming?" Fuck yeah. From the Morth ruins, head northeast through the river, past the Skadu we grabbed earlier, and follow the poison swamps round to the Rao base. Head west for the map, then into the Templetown ruins for the Skadu and the two-handed sword talisman. Now we head back to the Shadow Keep for Gaius. If you don't like climbing the ladders in this rafters section, you're in luck because I've been watching speedruns again. Head up to this bat and jump onto this little lip on the wall, around the beams and drop straight down to the door. Time to try out this thing. There's a couple of ways of running this weapon. For this fight, I went with the Spike Crack tier and the Axe Talisman, as 2 charges will take it to its second stage of luster, ready to delete. This is really nice for bosses with shorter attack opportunities, as you only need 2 decent attack windows to get fully buffed. And when you are buffed, now back to Ballarat for the Divine Lion, who I decided to fight at a sensible point in this run. For this fight I used the Wing Sword Talisman for some multi-hit buffs. I didn't have access to Millicent's Talisman or the Rotten version on this character, as both Millie and Gowry are dead. A proper multi-hit setup with these two and the Thorny Crack tier will outdamage this build on standard attacks, but strangely not on the Vortex. Definitely worth trying out if you have those talismans though. For R'hllana, run in with a decent parry shield and only focus on parries, no hits in between. When you get the first riposte, switch to two-handing and hit her with the chargey. Then exactly the same thing again. No attacks, 2 parries and a chargey will take her to half health and the phase transition. Now into the Shadow Keep for Hippo. The strat here is the same as Gaius and R'hllana. Build up the Euporia enough for that second stage buff, then let loose. Back to the gate front and drop down the cliffs to the southeast to start making your way to the Cerulean coast. When you get there, grab the map fragment, then south to the tip for the Shadow Tree fragment there. Now for the very weak to holy damage Putrescent Knight. And I'll just let this one play. Afterwards you want to do Theolia's questline, link to that as usual in the description. Now back to the Shadow Keep and to the area by the boats to search out the secret room and start making our way down to the Abyssal Woods. As usual, I headed towards the Darklight Catacombs, killing the hippos on the way for 2 more fragments. Now for the 2 little skips you can do here. In the second room, jump off this railing onto this ledge and drop down onto the bridge to skip the first half. Then when you get to this room, jump onto the banister and jump left to the ladder and head down it. From here, all you have to do is not get memed by this guy, which is easier said than done on low vigor characters. For Jory, you can just go for backstabs as usual, however we do enough damage here to just brute force it if you like. This one's for you, lore nerds. Grab the map and the fragments in the church, then make your way to Mitchriz maps.
Enough. I have endured. Oh, did I know?
For Midra, go in with parry strats, building up the weapon's luster until he reaches half health. Then hit him with the vortex in his phase transition. If you can dodge the explosion here, it's going to be tight, but you can certainly tank it just fine. Now back to the Shadow Keep back entrance and down to the Avatar. And if you've spoiled yourself by using fire on him so far, this fight will be a little tougher than usual, but nothing to worry about. I saved all of my style points for Phase 3, so Phase 1 and Phase 2 just fighting normally. And then... Now, because we fought Mesmer first, and didn't either summon or kill Hornsent before, that unfortunately means that the leader fight is going to be a fair 3v3, and you're just going to have to get good and kill Captain Spamfist with a weapon that doesn't stunlock him. Or you can not do that and actually enjoy the game. So Radahn. The whole way through this run, I had a plan for him. You can just about build up Stage 2 Luster in Phase 1, meaning that you can start Phase 2 with Vortex for some massive damage. You can't dodge the explosion with this, but I had a plan for that too. Raptor of the Mists or even the deflecting tier could surely help me and give me a flashy looking fight. But the thing is, I know people are genuinely struggling with this fight, and rather than me posting a flashy looking fight that to a point you'd have to grind RNG to replicate, I thought it would be more useful to show you the other way of fighting Radahn, because really there only are two ways. Parrying him a million times while standing still, or rolling left. We've done parrying in the last two videos, so today we're rolling left. And it really is that simple. Hold 10 o'clock on your controller and roll for the whole fight, trying to keep to his side as much as possible. The reason for this is because of that triple slash attack. The only way to dodge it is to be positioned to his side when he starts the animation. Anywhere else and you're dead. Although rather hilariously you can roll this attack like it's nothing if you're on heavy roll. The Phase 1 Meteor attack is a good healing opportunity if you need it, and due to his Phase 1 holy damage weakness, this should be okay. For the explosion attack in Phase 2, you need to sprint to the outer radius as soon as he starts it, and roll right when you get to the edge for some extra safety. If you hesitate at all here, you'll get hit. For the Phase 2 Meteors, run directly away from him. Sprint to the right to dodge the meteors, then roll into him on the sound of the fourth clone attack. For the instant clone, to be honest, I'm still working on 100% consistent dodge. I tend to roll left into him just before the third hit, and it works most of the time. Since recording this, I saw Gino doing jumping strats for this, so I'll try that out in the future. This mad combo that he does is probably the most engaging attack in the fight. Behold. You see that? Yeah, for the third attack in the combo, I like to roll right. Ladies and gentlemen, we are now gaming. Keep rolling left for absolutely everything else. I finished him off with the Vortex, but it was a bit silly because if he'd done the triple slash, I would have been dead, which is kind of the motto for this fight, really. And now for a good boss. Fighting Bale with the Euporia is so much fun. I prefer R1s over Chargies here for the range and positioning advantages. Build up the luster to Stage 2 and let loose the Vortex before the phase change for some big damage. So should you try the Euporia then? Hell yeah. Inevitably, some Dark Souls and Elden Ring weapons end up feeling very similar to each other when you've done a ton of runs. But like I said at the beginning, the Euporia is like a Bloodborne weapon, complicated enough to keep you engaged throughout every single fight, and make you totally forget that in essence it's just another twin blade. This run could not have felt more different to doing a run with the Godskin Peeler or Eleonora's Pole Blade. And for that reason, you should definitely try this thing out. The only downside to it is not being able to fight one of the best bosses in the game with it. Actually, you know what? Fuck it. I'm fighting Mesmer.